Sara from the latest season of Love is Blind is trying to come across like she's this progressive white woman, but it's giving typical white feminist. You see the way she dropped the BLM conversation so quick. If her sister was not queer, I doubt she would care about the LGBTQ community to the degree that she does now that it's actually affecting her life. If she really was this progressive woman that she claims she is, she would not be with Ben, period. And what I find really strange is that it's one thing to be a quote unquote progressive woman marrying, you know, a centrist closet conservative, if we're being real, because Ben is a closet conservative. He claims that, he's for equality and all these things, but it's given very much closet conservative, and he's mirroring Sara so that he can be with her. But anyway, as I was saying, it's one thing to be a progressive woman getting with a conservative man or conservative leaning man, simply because, for heterosexual relationships, there's slim pickings out there anyway. So I can somewhat understand progressive women selling out their politics to be with a man. But in a sell out of, well, I still hold my views and he holds his, and, we're making it work despite our political differences, Sara is going a different way where she's now trying to assimilate herself into Ben's life. And it's just very weird. Like, I just feel like that her shopping around for churches for them to attend to is weird. If you are not religious and you don't like going to church, why are you coming to force yourself to go to church with Ben? It's really not that serious. Like you said yourself, you'll come for special occasions. Keep it to that. That's even good. I would not, if I was going to sell out like that. Because in terms of, Ben wanting a partner to go to church with him, I think his stance is very much like it's ideal if his partner goes to church with him, but it wouldn't be that deep. I don't know. I can't remember. I feel like that's what his stance was though. Like ideally he'd want his partner to go to church with him. But I just feel like it's not by force. At the church that I went to growing up, there was a kid there whose mum was a Christian, but their dad was an atheist. But he would come to church every Sunday with his mum, but his dad wouldn't come because he was an atheist. And, they were together a long time. I think they're even still together now. And Sara isn't even an atheist. I think she's just like not religious. So I don't think it's that deep for her to be like, oh, let's go to a church like where we're both comfortable so we can both go every Sunday. Is it by force? Sorry. And furthermore, it's very much like Sara's trying to fit in now with the kind of Christian crowd. Why aren't you bringing Ben to like a queer event to see how he behaves? Because you're trusting his word alone after his shady ass answers. Take him to a gay club. But back onto this searching for a church thing, Ben seems pretty resistant to finding a new church. It seems like he's loving where he's at with his new church, but Sara doesn't really want to go to that church. Because basically, Sara wants Ben to move churches because his church is not trans affirming. And she basically is like, if they have kids and, one of them turns out to be trans, she wants them to, grow up. And if they are going to come to church, go to a church in an affirming environment. And Ben is quite dismissive and is basically just like, well, you're not going to find a church out there that's going to agree with everything that you agree with and have the same exact values that you have. And he basically says, well, I like it here and I feel affirmed here, so I don't give a fuck. But in a very nice way. But that's pretty much what he said. And Sara's not really feeling that. And she kind of senses that that answer is full of shit. Because there are churches out there that are LGBTQ plus affirming. He either, A, can't be asked to look for one, or 2, doesn't want to go. And I think it's a mixture of the 2. So then Sara kind of checks him. And if what you're saying is true, that you believe in equality and all this stuff, how are you comfortable coming to a church that doesn't affirm trans people? Good question. And he gives the good old wishy-washy, neutral, closet conservative answer of, I'm not here to judge anyone. I'm not here to say who was right and who was wrong. I'm just all about peace and unity and love. Bitch, be fucking for real. And Sara, be fucking for real, because he's basically saying that, he's not here to tell the hardline Christians who think being gay or being trans is an abomination and they're going to hell are wrong to hold that view. because, quote unquote, nobody really knows. What do you mean nobody really knows? If nobody really knows, why are you following this religion if nobody really knows? Be fucking for real. We know the truth, Ben. We know what you really think, Ben. If you really were about this progressive life and you really, were looking out for your future trans kids, for your future queer kids, these shaky answers you're accepting. I feel like if you want to be a sellout and you're not trying to have no kids, cool. But now you're saying, oh, just in case we have kids. If I know in my family, when I get married, I want to bring kids into my union, there is no way I'm compromising on my values. You can't be gambling on your kids, because if you're taking a chance with your partner and you know you're a progressive woman and you know that you would want to nurture your queer kids, your trans kids, you are putting them at risk if you are not foolproof on your partner's values. And for me, Ben's values are very unclear, are very wishy-washy. And I could not take the risk with that on my future kids, because I feel like the quiet part out, if you're willing to compromise on if you're willing to sell out on your politics, marry someone who you know you're not politically aligned with, who you know is a bit shaky on queer people, is a bit shaky with trans people, and then you have kids, you are essentially hoping that your kids are straight so that there's not a problem. But that's not a guarantee. That's not a guarantee. So I think it's wild for Sara to be talking about, because if we have, LGBTQ children and you ain't patting your man's values. Absolutely not. Granted, yes, Ben is lying about what his values are, but it's so easy to see that he's lying. We also see Ben meet Sara's sister and her wife, I believe. Either her wife or her partner. I'm not sure if they're married or not. And one interesting thing in their conversation, which really highlights that Sara is a white feminist, is that Ben and Sara both say that they're socially liberal but financially conservative. And I was confused. I was thinking, what is that? Does it mean like, they're not going 50-50 on bills? That's what I was like. I was like, is that what it means? But I looked it up, and basically being financially conservative is basically like they want low taxes and stuff. They want better deals for businesses, like very capitalistic basically. But her sister, I'm not sure if it's her sister or her partner, I don't know, the sister or the sister-in-law, calls Sara out, calls them both out, and is basically like, not everybody can be, socially liberal and financially conservative. And when you are financially conservative, it affects people like queer people. Because if you're now voting to, lower your taxes to go where the money is, in a capitalist society, what we're using today, the tax money is what we use to fund social initiatives that are often used by minority groups, including the LGBTQ community. So when people are advocating for lower taxes and stuff like that, and tax breaks and all that stuff, you're taking money away from those groups and therefore taking away vital services as well. On top of that, when you're putting profits over everything, people put profits over people. Who are going to be the people most affected? Minorities, including the LGBTQ community. So no, you can't be financially conservative and socially liberal. It's an oxymoron, because everything is intertwined. But Sara doesn't give a fuck about that, because she's a white feminist. She's only looking out for herself. Her sister also warns her, like, he's got this cis-het white privilege and she don't have the same privileges. So she's got to be wary of that, because people forget when they come for other groups, eventually they're going to come for you. On top of that, whenever Sara brings this up, Ben pretty much throws a tantrum. Like, he was very much being very dismissive, and low-key she was being divisive, which is the classic gaslighting word. And she's choosing to ignore it. But what do you guys think? Progressive or not?